Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and that cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
Hey, this is Molly Diago, and you're listening to Concerts That Made Us.
There's an empty bottle on the floor, a symptom of being at war. I remember every moment until the last day. Every fight, every lie, every single night, every word burns bright like kryptonite. So tell me what you want from me. What can you hear me say? When you find yourself alone and there's no place left to go, did you find somebody new, someone just like you? And when the fire turns to rain and there's no one left to blame, did you finally see the truth, that the villain lies in you? Break, it's what you did to me. Take your vacation and leave. I'm sure you'll find someone brand new, someone like you. Did you think that this was worth the fight? Did you think that I would be alright? So tell me, and I hear you say it will be okay. But I am just a mute, nothing left to lose. When you find yourself alone and there's no place left to go, did you find somebody new, someone just like you? And when the fire turns to rain and there's no one left to blame, did you finally see the truth, that the villain lies in you? I'll wait for you till forever and I will put my hand on the burning stove, so you find someone brand new, someone just like you. I'll stay awake till it's over, I'll hold my breath till it all goes black, till it all goes black. When you find yourself alone and there's no place left to go, did you find somebody new, someone just like you? And when the fire turns to rain and there's no one left to blame, did you finally see the truth, that the villain lies in you?
Molly Diago, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
It's great to have you now. I'm really looking forward to diving into your music over the next bit. Now, you recently released the masterpiece, Someone Just Like You. Can you tell us a bit more about the track?
Well, that's the first time I've heard it called that, but thank you very much. The track is a collaboration between me and Miles Claiborne, who's a newer at the production game, but a longtime musician and drummer for Saul. He had sent me an instrumental track probably 2 or 3 months ago, and I just loved it. It had that little guitar riff, and I knew that I wanted to, try to make some magic out of it. So we kind of worked together over a period of a couple weeks to turn a riff into a song. And then I went into the studio in Connecticut called Dirt Floor. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And I worked with a vocal engineer, and we kind of were able to sort of piece it all together. So it all happened very quick. And usually these things take months and months, but this was like, I think 60 days ago, the song didn't exist. So it was really exciting to sort of go through that process with, a great team of people. And then, of course, have the support of, our label while we did it.
Yeah, yeah. I have to say, I don't hear that too often now. It must have felt like you were definitely on the right track with it running so smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so rare. Like usually there's always chaos and, a little bit of issues here and there, but this one, it was really easy. And I think it was just kind of meant to be. So, I was, again, super excited to be able to work with, some of these great people to put together the project and, get it out there so quickly.
There's a very interesting story behind this song. Where does the story or where does the inspiration come from?
Yeah. So the song, it kind of details out. I had sort of a relationship in my life with actually it was regarding sort of a music type writing partnership. And musicians are, emotional people. And sometimes when they sort of get in a room together, like, it's chaos. And that's kind of what happened. And the other person I felt was, he was very, very self-involved with, and, me trying to navigate that and deal with it and still be creative at the same time. It was difficult, so eventually the whole partnership kind of fell apart. And this song kind of gave me an opportunity to tell, my side of the story. And I think that a lot of people crave that, especially if you're going through a fight, whether, it's family or, a relationship or a partner or whatever it may be. A lot of times if, one of the parties is sort of falls on the on the scale of a narcissist, you never quite get the last word. And that's kind of how I felt. So I feel like the song was an opportunity for me to have a last word kind of, and sort of, hopefully that it's something that's relatable to people who, went through some trouble with people. And I feel like narcissism is really a big topic these days, especially when people are getting attention from social media and from, the instant gratification of text and Snapchat and all that. So that's like the very, very short version of the inspiration for the song. But of course, it felt good to finally be able to sort of tell, my side of the story, even though it was, something kind of personal. But, I think that creative expression is an awesome way to channel, some emotions that won't get you into trouble or, arrested for better saying. So it was good.
Yeah, I think I actually like the song even more now after hearing that. I have to ask though,
Good.
does this person know the song is about him?
Um, I don't know. I think if he hears it, he will. But if he's heard it or not, I'm not sure because actually said person, I haven't spoke to him in close to a year. The way that everything ended was explosive and, everything that went down it was just unfortunate. So I hope, I hope he knows, but I'm sure once he realizes I'll be getting a very long text message, but you know what? That's okay. That's what the block button is for, so I can, I can save my last word on the air.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. You know what? I hope it's some sort of situation where he's listening to the song and kind of bopping along to it, thinking it's the best song ever, and he doesn't realize it.
Exactly. That would be the ultimate. I hope that too. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Now that the track is out there, how do you look back on it in your mind?
You know, again, I think that a piece of it is just like me being able to get, emotions that I wasn't able to sort of get out, during that time, on the sort of emotional side of it. So I feel good and it feels like sort of almost a relief to be able to, sort of have that feeling that I never really got to, express, a year ago or whenever that happened. And musically, it's exciting to get out there because I took a small break from active rock for probably the past like year and a half. So musically, I was really excited to get this out there because I missed my place in the rock world for sure because that's like my comfort zone. I've always been a rocker, since day one. So I think on both fronts, it felt good. It was like a relief.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And your last track, My Sweet Burning Heart, reached number one on the international DRT chart. How is this one being received so far?
Well, so far so good. It's only been out about a week at this point, so we're still sort of in the stage of collecting data and calculating spins and such. But I'm really, really hoping that I mean the DRT chart is excellent, and My Sweet Burning Heart was a track that it wasn't really rock, so it wasn't my sort of comfort zone, but to see it do well was exciting, and I think. It was awesome also to have a number one on a giant chart like that. But I'm really hoping that this song particularly does well on the rock side of things too, here in the US. So only time will tell, and hopefully in a week or two, we'll be able to sort of get a real glimpse on how we're doing.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Now, something I'm sure people find fascinating about you is that a few years back, while being very successful as a touring musician, you decided to study law at Syracuse University College of Law. You really like keeping yourself busy, don't you?
Yeah, it's never a dumb, like even today, like I was going through the activities that I accomplished before noon today, and it was like such a wide array of things in my life at all times, which I guess it keeps it exciting. But I went to law school. I think I had some pressure from my family because, no matter how successful you are, I feel like unless you're Taylor Swift or something, like your parents always are secretly like, well, you need a backup or something. So I always had that voice in the back of my head, and I figured that there would come a day where, if I wasn't Taylor Swift, still working on it, that, if I don't want to do this anymore, I would need, other options. And I think that what I didn't anticipate was how often I actually use, my education and my credentials in music. I get calls every single day from artists all over the place, and I make a lot of friends because they all have issues, which I guess that's a nice benefit of it for sure. But there is never a dull moment.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. If you kind of look back at your early days in music, growing up, how did your local scene influence your sound?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I played in like a garage type rock band when I was growing up and when I was in high school. And Syracuse is where I'm actually from, Syracuse. And then, I moved away and then came back to participate in law school. But it's very, very rock centric. And, the community in a lot of cities and towns that, I sort of got to play in, rock is like either hit or miss, right? Like, especially the last 10 years. In here, either everybody's really, really involved with country or rock or, whatever. So I think Syracuse was, definitely a rock town, which helped me sort of grow and really get to experiment and, enjoy it. And on the flip side of that things in Syracuse, when I was still there, I played in some cover bands as well in pop and country. So I think that my favorite part about, the scene when I was growing up is again, I was able to like sort of test the waters and kind of feel, for where I fit. So for that, I am grateful for Syracuse.
Yeah, you actually made me think of something there. Where do you think rock's place is now? Because as you mentioned, it's not at the forefront. Do you think it'll come back around or?
I hope it'll come back around because I mean the thing is that I feel like the sounds continue to change, and unfortunately I feel like things are starting to get a little bit cookie cutter and on the rock side of things. 'Cause, I mean I loved the 2000s era of rock, and I mean maybe you can sort of discuss a little that like I just feel like every single song there wasn't a cookie cutter format there, the artists weren't trying to fit into a box. And then I feel like the last 10 or 12 years, they now are slowly sort of commercializing their product to try and fit, whether it be like that really heavy, like, heavy sound like you hear when you turn on Octane, or the opposite, some sort of pop sound, which I think an example is like Shinedown's latest stuff is really poppy. So I think that rock needs to reclaim its identity to be, respected and sort of grow back. But I would love your thoughts on that too, being involved, in music from your standpoint.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Something I've noticed for the longest time now is that it's almost like when a known band has to come up with a song, they go into an office, I feel, and it's like there's a checklist, right? It has to have this sound, it has to have this type of vocals, these effects, and like you said, I think I agree. The early 2000s was probably the last time that bands were, I don't want to say original, but doing what they wanted, if you know what I mean.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think that that's like 100% correct. And that's kind of the problem, Like if you're working off a checklist, so to speak, like where's the creativity? And I think the creativity is what makes rock amazing. And I mean, if you look even going back to the 60s and 70s, like they were like completely creating their own narrative when they were putting out rock music. And I mean, they had the benefit of being the pioneers. It's a lot harder because you have to keep sort of retelling the same story, but I don't think we have that courtesy today. And I think that, like you said, the more that it becomes sort of commercialized, and I love the checklist reference. How can they pioneer new things? How can they sort of grow and go back to like experimentalism and stuff like that? So I think it's definitely a problem, and I really hope that they get a hold on it before it's too late, I suppose. But I don't even know exactly what that would be, but one can hope.
Exactly, exactly. To take it a step further, then, where do you think AI fits into it?
AI is scary because like I know even when I'm like on social media, I'm getting ads for like you can AI your voice to sing, like Tracy Chapman or Leonard Skinner or like Slipknot, which is crazy. I mean, if AI can go do our jobs, then like I mean, the only aspect of it, I suppose, like, is the bands would actually still have to perform, right? There's no way to redo that. But then again, there's holograms now, I guess. But I don't know. To me, that's not the same. But I don't know. I think it's scary that, people would actually buy into, AI creations because it takes all of the human out of it, it takes all of the emotion out of it. And I feel like when you're a music fan, like that's what you're listening for, right? Whether you know it or not, is that emotion and that. And I think musically, like they've been utilizing AI in like instrumental tracks. And I mean, I'm guilty of this too. I had a company for some time that we did custom wedding songs for people. And we were utilizing AI to, fill in some of the instrumentals so we could get it done quickly. But the product definitely suffered a little bit. And you could always tell that it wasn't 100%. Like if a musician listening can tell that it wasn't real. But I guess that, the general population might not be able to tell. But I don't know. I'm scared by it. And I'm sad about it too, I think a little bit. Just being so easy to take the emotion out of something and still have people buy into it, it sucks, but I guess that's part of life now.
True, true. What I actually find scary about it, while it is fun, on the basis of it. But when you look deeper is, you go on TikTok and you see Johnny Cash, say, doing a cover of Barbie Girl. While that is fun to look at, it's scary when you think of where that could go. Like, are we going to get a Johnny Cash album of songs he never even heard, let alone sang?
Right. And I don't think that's right. Like
No.
you should have ownership over your own voice, at least, especially in cases like that. And I think also like this is something that I'm a big Howard Stern fan and they talk about this a lot. Like getting AI to like put artists in compromising positions that they would have never sort of agreed to. Like, I don't know. It's all frightening. And I'm hoping that the legal part of me is hoping that somehow they figure out how to create policy, around this. But again, if it's selling, America's very hesitant to limit, capitalism
Yeah.
and commercialization of these things. So I don't know. It's wild though.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. Now, the podcast is called Concerts That Made Us. So I have to ask you, as a concert goer, what concerts have made you?
Sure. I was excited for this question and I prepared. So,
Right.
honestly, the concert, this is kind of a weird one, but the concert that got me started was the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which I don't know if you're familiar, but they're a Christmas like metal show, basically. They, have lasers and they have, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I remember going to that show when I was a kid. I might have been, I don't know, 9 or 10, and I was just in love with it. And I wanted to do that. Like that day, I'm like, I want to be a musician. And specifically, I was drawn to the guitarist because the Trans-Siberian Orchestra is very much led by the guitar players instead of singers, which, is interesting and not the norm. So that was Christmas time, of course. And I asked for, I think, a guitar for my birthday, which was shortly after, and I got it. and I really haven't been able to put it down since. So that concert, if there's one concert I can pinpoint, it's definitely that one. And that actually started this career for me. And another concert that I like loved and like is my favorite to this day is Shinedown. I think it was in 2012, they did an acoustic tour with Will Hogue, and they just literally like played through Sounds of Madness acoustic, and then of course all their hits, and it was the most amazing, like that show, the sounds and the tones that they sort of produced made me want to write songs and get into songwriting stuff, because when they stripped the songs down like that, you could really see like how creative and inspiring, the music was. So those two concerts for sure are, live on in my memory forever. And especially when I'm creating.
I like it. I like it. When you go to a show nowadays, then are you able to switch off and totally immerse yourself, or are you kind of a bit critical?
I am very critical. And honestly, I go to less shows now than I ever have just because of that. Like it almost ruins it for me, Like either one, I want to be up there doing it, or two, like, I'm picking out mistakes and just sloppy, you know what I mean? So it's sad that it's like that, but I don't know if that's just because, my personality has changed since becoming a lawyer, but I that's the one thing I'd like to change this year is getting out to more concerts and trying to like switch off to be able to actually enjoy it like I did when I was young, before I had all this knowledge. So that's actually that's a great question.
Well, I hope you can get back to it. And the moment we're all waiting for any listeners that haven't caught one of your shows, what are they like? Give us the full experience if you can.
Sure. So, just because I was really inspired by Trans-Siberian Orchestra and I love like the theatrics of it and the lights and the heavy sounds, I try to emulate that. At my shows, we incorporate lights, we incorporate, a lot of heavy guitars, like heavy low end, because I love like a driven sound like that. A lot of guitar solos, of course, because, I'm a guitar player at heart. And we also love, getting, moments and chances to really interact with people on stage. So I really hope that all the listeners out there will come visit us on the road this summer. And, maybe I'll be lucky enough to be a concert that helped make somebody else.
Exactly, exactly. That's it. That's it. Now, if you think about all the shows you've played over your entire career, is there one that sticks out as maybe the most perfect experience you've had?
Yeah, well, my favorite concert ever was one of my first big gigs. It was my garage band was opening up for the All American Rejects, and I like it was my first like really national scale like gig. And even though we were opener at the time, it helped open a lot of doors for me. With the All American Rejects and other bands as well, but. I just remember the excitement leading up to that show. Like I was in high school still at the time. So I remember like before we left to do the gigs, like I had tickets to the shows. I was like pawning off at the high school kids. Like I was just so excited. And like even sound checking that day, it was like, I don't know, it's cliche, but it was almost like out of body experience. And, I just loved every second of it. And it's funny because in that moment, I thought we were the greatest thing in the world. And then I watched videos of that show, that first show, 10, 50, well, I don't know how many, 12 years later, and we were so bad. But that just drives the point home. Like in that moment, we were it was the greatest thing in the world, And so even though we were like literally horrific, I had no idea at the time, and I think that makes it even better, that I was able to enjoy it
Yeah.
despite having no idea what we were doing, So that first like big gig, I think is definitely the one that sticks with me.
I like it. I like it. And if you switch that question around, then is there one that sticks out as the worst experience, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, we played a festival. It was, I think, 2 years ago. It was in my hometown, which is Syracuse, and there was a lot of pressure on the gig because, it was, me coming back to my hometown. I hadn't played there in like 4 or 5 years, and so, it was definitely a big deal. It was in the paper, and there's a lot of advertising around me coming back, which was, exciting. But I had for whatever reason, I drafted a band of local musicians to support the show because I thought in my brain that was like a cool thing to do. Like, yeah, let's use local musicians. All guys I played with in the past, all great guys. And so it became sort of quite the quite the obstacle to be able to get together and rehearse for it, but we did it. And there was one guy who was like a really weak link, and he ended up like, even when we got like, even the rehearsal the night before, like everything was going fine. And then when we got to the show, and man, this guy, he totally blew. Like it was so bad and it was so embarrassing. And granted, it was only one guy, in the show, but there's so much pressure on that. And actually, the show before that I played in Syracuse, which I think was 5 years earlier, was had an equal sort of catastrophe where it wasn't necessarily bad playing, but I was putting out a song with, actually, this is probably a worse story. I was putting out a song with Hugo Ferreira from Tantric, and we were debuting the song at this concert in front of my hometown. Again, papers, radio stations, everybody was covering it. And then it was a duet, and then Hugo didn't show up. So that was also equally terrible. So I've had really bad luck coming back to Syracuse. And I'm hoping that they'll give me one more chance, to redeem myself. But those two concerts, man, were really upsetting. And it's just disappointing because, at home, I'm supposed to hopefully get better, not worse. But, those things happen and you can't control other people. So you just got to kind of, move on with it. And that's what we did. Like that when Hugo didn't show up, a guy from my band stepped up and he sung the song. So it was fine, but of course in my head, I'm like, yeah, well, we were expecting so much more, and the situation with the guitar player, the last time we went to play a festival, like he basically excused himself. I didn't even say anything to him. He just knew, and honestly, I don't think I've spoken to him since. And not because I was mad or upset. Like I think he just knew that he had really screwed up. So I don't know if that was the best way to handle things, but that stuff happens and you just gotta sort of move on with it.
True. Yeah. And, if you look back over your career to date, what is your proudest moment?
That's a good question. I don't even know. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Like I know the time I felt the proudest was before that first show where we were absolutely terrible, but I loved it. I'm like, wow, I finally did something. Because when you're like doing garage band stuff, like the other side, like trying to get to the other side of doing national gigs, it's just so far away, So when a promoter finally gave us a chance, to hop on as an opener, like I think that even though we were horrible, like I still don't know why he did it to this day, but I don't ask, I'm thankful that he gave us a chance. So I think just that one gig, like, really sort of set apart for me everything, and it set the trajectory for where we are today. So I don't know. If I had to pick one moment, probably that one.
Right. We'll take it. We'll take it. Now, before we dive into the last couple of questions, so future plans for the rest of the year, gigs, more music, lay it all out first.
Yeah, so we'll have some more music coming out hopefully in the next couple months. It's an EP that's being released sort of one by one. I will have some shows over the summer, which we hope to announce in the next month or so. And that's about it.
Right. Brilliant. The last couple of questions. So there are a couple of random odd ones. So the first one, what are you currently obsessed with? It can be music, a book, a film, anything.
Grey's Anatomy, man.
Really?
Yes, I probably watched the show. Man, I'm on my fifth or sixth time through it, and I just love it. I don't know why. Someone said online that like there's some people have like that want to feel secure or like comfort, like they won't watch other shows, they won't do anything else. And like, man, that's been it for like 3 years now. I've been totally like self-involved with Grey's Anatomy for no reason really. But yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but
That's funny. I used to watch it when it came out first, and I've always been meaning to go back to it. I only watched it as far as, do you remember Denny dying?
yes, that was a bad
That's,
lawyer.
yeah,
That was it for you?
yeah. That was so long ago
Oh,
as well.
oh yeah. Oh, probably 10 or 15 years back since that
Mm,
happened. So I think Katherine Heigl was still on at that time. But honestly, I think they're on season 20 now, and roughly halfway through, Derek Shepherd dies. And really, like, that's where it kind of like jumps the shark, But
yeah.
still, I don't care. Like, I just keep watching him, and I'm just like, this is a great show.
Yeah, it is. It is. And if you could collaborate with any musician from history, who would it be and what sort of song would you write?
Dave Matthews for sure. He's my fave. And And I don't know what kind of song I'd write because honestly, he writes every single song he writes is something different. So, and I think that's why, he's so interesting. So I would let him lead the way and I'd be all about it if I got that opportunity.
Brilliant answer. And the final one, so what is your go-to album?
I'd have to say probably either Shinedown, Sounds of Madness, or Dave Matthews, Under the Table and Dreaming. Both really good albums, and I love them.
I couldn't agree more, especially Shinedown. I wore that out in my teenage years. It's a great one.
I think it's amazing. And actually, the Somewhere in the Stratosphere, which is the live recording of that concert I mentioned earlier, is another one that I give a lot of play to. Just love it. So great.
Brilliant, brilliant. Molly, listen, thanks a million now. It's been an absolute blast.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Is there any remedy for a broken heart that still bleeds? Show me how to sew it all up. Feeling like there's nothing left. Blind to any cause and effect. You don't see the skin that you cut.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.